Nonso and Adora couldn't stop. No matter how many times they were warned, no matter how guilty they felt, the pull of curiosity was too strong. It wasn't just about what they had seen anymore. It had become something they needed to explore. They had tasted the forbidden, and now it burned in their minds like a fire they couldn't put out. Their parents thought the problem had ended. They believed locking away DVDs and turning off the TV was enough to keep their children safe. But Nonso and Adara had already learned how to hide. They had learned how to keep secrets. One day, after school, Adara lingered near Nonso's gate. Her mother was expecting her home, but her feet wouldn't move. Nonso appeared at the door, glancing around to make sure no one was watching. Come, he whispered. I can't stay long, Adara replied, but her eyes told a different story. It's just for a little while, Nonso said, opening the door wider. They slipped into the house together, hearts racing, the thrill of secrecy making their heads spin. They didn't need a DVD or a movie this time. They had everything in their minds. Scenes they had memorized, whispers from older children at school. They had built their own little world of make-believe, but it was no longer innocent. In the dim light of Nonso's room, they acted out the things they didn't understand. Every touch, every glance was a reflection of what they had absorbed from the adult world. They giggled nervously, then fell silent, both feeling something they couldn't name but couldn't resist. Suddenly, there was a noise from outside. The gate creaked. Footsteps. Nonso's eyes widened in fear. Someone's coming! Your mama! Adora whispered, her heart pounding. Nonso peeked out the window. It wasn't his mother. It was the neighbor, Auntie Amaka, returning from the market. Relief washed over them, but the fear didn't fade completely. They knew they were walking a dangerous line. We should stop, Adara said, her voice shaky. Nonso nodded. But, do you really want to? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence between them was heavy with a secret they couldn't let go of. When their parents became stricter, locking doors, keeping them apart, and forbidding them from being alone, the children only grew more clever. They started meeting at school, finding quiet corners where teachers wouldn't see them. They made excuses to stay after class or pretended to go on errands together. The thrill of getting away with it made everything feel more exciting. It wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was about the danger, the feeling of doing something they knew was forbidden. Every time they succeeded, it gave them more courage to try again. One day, during break time at school, Adaura whispered to Nonso, there's a place behind the storage room. No one ever goes there. Nonso's eyes lit up. When? After school. And so, their secret meetings continued, hidden in shadows, behind walls, and in places no one thought to look. At home, both children began to change. Nonso, once a cheerful boy who loved to laugh and play, grew quiet and withdrawn. His mother noticed how he no longer ran to her with stories about his day. He spent more time alone, his face clouded with thoughts he couldn't share. Nonso, is something wrong? She asked one evening. No, Mama, he mumbled, avoiding her eyes. Are you sure? You can talk to me about anything. He nodded but said nothing. Adora's mother saw changes in her daughter too. Adora, who used to sing while helping with chores, now seemed distracted. She avoided eye contact and flinched whenever her parents called her name. Are you feeling well, my child? Mrs. Obiano asked one night. I'm fine, Mama, Adora whispered. But she wasn't fine. Neither of them were. One afternoon, as Nonso and Adaora sat in the secret spot behind the school storage room, they heard voices approaching. They froze, their hearts hammering in their chests. Someone's coming, Nonso whispered. They scrambled to hide, pressing themselves against the wall as the voices grew louder. Two older boys walked past, laughing and talking about things Nonso and Adaora barely understood. When the boys were gone, Adaora whispered, What if we get caught? Nonso clenched his fist. We won't, We're careful. But were they? The lies were piling up, and the walls of their secrets were starting to crack. One evening, Nonso's father came home early. He found the back gate open, a gate that was always supposed to be locked. Suspicious, he searched the yard. His eyes fell on the hidden corner behind the mango tree. As he stepped closer, he heard whispers. His heart tightened with dread. Nonso! There was a scramble of movement. Nonso and Adaora jumped to their feet, panic flooding their faces. What are you doing here? Mr. Okafor demanded. Nothing, Papa, Nonso stammered, his voice trembling. Nothing. His father's eyes burned with anger. I told you never to be alone together. What are you hiding? We weren't doing anything, Adaora whispered, her voice barely audible. Mr. Okafor's face hardened. Go home, Adora, now! As she ran, his gaze turned to his son. Inside, now! Nonso's legs felt like lead as he followed his father into the house. That night, the truth came dangerously close to unraveling. Mr. Okafor and Mrs. Okafor sat in silence, the tension thick between them. We've tried everything, Mrs. Okafor whispered. Why won't he stop? Her husband clenched his fists. Because we didn't teach him why it's wrong. We hid things from him, but we didn't help him understand. In the darkness of his room, Nonso lay awake, the fear and shame pressing down on him like a heavy weight. He wanted to stop. He wanted to be free. But how could he escape something that had already wrapped itself around his heart? Nonso and Adora had reached a point where secrets could no longer protect them. Their choices were leading them deeper into a place where consequences waited. What happens when curiosity turns into obsession? What happens when lies grow too big to hide? What happens when innocence is lost and there's no easy way back? Part 3 will reveal everything. If you dare to know how it ends, stay tuned, share this story. Someone needs to hear it.